Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life. Welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. I'm your host, Madison Malloy, and on today's episode, I'm sitting down with real estate investor and guru David Becker, who's here to talk about the global housing crisis, what's going on in New York, why things are unaffordable, how we can potentially fix this problem, and how to not totally lose the American dream. It's a fascinating episode. Even if you're not in the real estate field, you're a human being who wants a roof over your head. So this episode, there will be stuff in this episode that will benefit you. So it absolutely is a must listen. We will be right back after this brief message with our guest on Next to Madison. Hi, it's your host, Madison Malloy. For those of you who don't know, I've written and created a powerful collection of books to help you build confidence, shift your mindset, and attract the life you truly want. From Time to Lighten the F Up, to Affirm and Flourish, Color Your Way to Abundance, and more. These aren't just books, they're tools for transformation. Grab a copy now on Amazon or at madisonmalloy.com. Now back to the show. All right, we are back with our guest on this episode. We are talking all about real estate, both commercial and some residential. I've got real estate investor and guru with me, as I said in the intro, David Becker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to be here because the real estate, when people think real estate, they just think, oh, where I'm going to buy a home. But then you see these real estate booms. We're right now sitting in New York City. Things have drastically changed.
Yes.
Right? So you guys are building. Where do you see a lot of the trends where you think people are going to be moving now?
Well, it's funny. I grew up in New York, New Jersey.
Yeah, give us a little of your background too. I know you so well.
Yeah. I've been in the real estate investment development business my whole life. And I work for a company and we have a family office where we own property all over the U.S., Canada, Europe. So I've had the benefit over my entire career of really seeing so many different marketplaces. New York is sort of home, so that's I've seen more in New York, but mostly because I live here. Other than recently, we really haven't made an investment in New York in probably 10 years. And, we're probably in 35 states, Canada, Europe. And it's mostly because it's become a really very, very hard place to invest and build and develop. And
is that because the restrictions?
So many restrictions. It's become very expensive. Costs have gone up. Taxes, utilities, insurance, everything. Regulatory environment here is very, very difficult. Rent stabilization, but it's that so much of that inventory, the housing inventory, is tied up, and it's just very hard to sort of find good value. New York has also been a place where it's always been so competitive because you have so many investors searching here. Mm-hmm. So all of the capital, has picked New York over so intensely that it's hard to sort of find good value. But lately, I would tell you that, they changed the rent laws in 2019, made it more difficult. And I would tell you, in the last few years, it's gotten significantly different. And of course, we have a big election coming up tomorrow, and
But we already had the election. He's in.
Well,
so people have been pulling out for 10 years.
I wouldn't say pulling out. I think there's certain people for whatever reasons. Different investors have they have a whole perspective. Like you have different investors who have different objectives.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of capital coming from all over the world to sort of be in New York for certain reasons. I mean, I manage a lot of investors, a lot of our partners, and I talk to a whole range of people, and they give me different reasons, and they have different objectives at different times. So I think New York has always been one of the, if not the, focal point of the U.S. in terms of real estate investment.
But it's funny because I know you, and then I know another guy who owns a big commercial real estate business, and they're based in New York, but they don't build here.
Yeah, well,
this is not a good sign for New York City.
It's not. The last tower we built was 50 West Street, which is a couple blocks south of the World Trade. That was maybe done. We completed it maybe 8 to 10 years ago, and it was a large condominium property that was successful. But I think we just don't. It's just so between the investors competing for properties and how regulatory and expensive it is. It just hasn't become. It's just not a very attractive place to invest for us right now.
Well, also, I don't think it's an attractive place for a lot of people because, and whether you agree with him or not, he was right on it's become unaffordable to live here. It's unaffordable to do business here, and it's unaffordable to live here. So yeah. I think a lot of people, and you included, you guys have a huge investment deal going on in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a huge, I'm thinking of making the move there myself.
Yeah, before we get to Nashville, it's funny, a lot of what really happened is COVID. Yeah. And if you think about really what happened to New York, most of the talented young professionals that come out of the schools and they all want to be. So New York becomes a melting pot. And it's always really been there since I've been young, since you've been young. Everyone wants to be in New York for obvious reasons. So when the talent wants to be here, companies want to take leases in office buildings. Of course, restaurants, everything sort of flows from there. The remote work dynamic changed everything.
Yeah.
I remember, and I'm just taking this back a little bit to tell you where remote work changed everything, because when you didn't need to be necessarily in New York City, a lot of people left and never came back.
Yeah.
And that became a big trend. So other places in the country that were much more welcoming, friendly, where the cost of living was a lot less, quality of life might have been better, like in Nashville, took off. And so it just accelerated what was happening in those various cities. So, we have a project now, and it's more of a land play, but it's essentially a spec on development, future development in downtown Nashville, which me personally, I'm very bullish on.
Yeah.
There's a few cities in the country right now that I feel are just, hugely on the upswing. It's mostly population migration of where people are going, states that are friendly to accept the businesses, who encourage the companies to come in, and where you can afford them a good quality of life.
I think that's what everybody's kind of looking for.
And it's fun. A place like Nashville in particular, it's booming nightlife. It's got these good opportunities for work, and housing is affordable, and whether you rent or buy. And it's a city on the rise.
And what are some other cities that you're seeing?
So mostly, it's funny, certainly going down the coast, Florida has been a big boom.
Remember it boomed during COVID, but then it really pulled back.
Miami pulled back because there's a lot of development out there that sort of there was a lot of supply in the market.
Yeah.
But if you look macro at Miami, there's very good trajectory for Miami.
Okay.
So we were invested there, but we went up the coast. I just came back from a conference in Palm Beach, and we were at the Breakers, and West Palm and Palm Beach are booming.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a few of the brokers there, and they were telling me that their call volume has gone up 25 to 50% in the last month. So it's just, you have inquiries, people calling from the Northeast. So I think Florida is still really a sort of a good value play. I just think quality of life, the demos, it's very friendly from a tax point of view.
Right.
Austin has certainly seen some great growth. Dallas and Houston too, but Austin for sure. UT, obviously the university there is a big growth factor, but I think Austin has a whole music scene now, and a food scene, a music scene. It's taken off. And then if you went west, I'm a big fan of Phoenix. We bought an office property in Paradise Valley, which is a high-end suburb of Scottsdale, and I love it there. And so a lot of it is weather, a lot of it is quality of life, cost. It's also where businesses are moving. So there's a few places.
So how do you think future legislation in New York can save New York? Because if this trend keeps up, you can never bet against New York, but it's not good. If none of the businesses want to be here anymore, and nobody wants to be here because it's not safe and it's filthy.
Well, I think that's the number one thing. I think I think you have a couple of incidents where a 25-year-old woman wants to go meet her friends for drinks, and gets mugged, God forbid, worse or whatever it is, or there's problems on the subway or whatnot. I think that kind of stuff is more damaging than anything, because fundamentally what New York is people love to go to work. They're here for a reason. They're sacrificing space.
Experience.
For
People come here for experience.
Exactly.
They don't come here for lifestyle.
Nope.
They come here for the experience to then earn
To
more
meet
money.
people,
Yeah.
to grow their careers, to grow their network,
Yeah.
to live, to experience things, to go to whatever it is, music, theater, whatever it might be. Meet people from all over the world, and but if there's a safety breakdown, that's a major problem.
Right.
So that's my number one thing. And if people are afraid to get on the L train to go to Brooklyn because they want to go to a hot club or go see music, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So to me, it's that first. But yeah, the cost of living here and the environment is challenging. The problem is, if you start scaring away all the people that are contributing to the tax base, all you're going to do, they're the most mobile people. So
Well, exactly.
so they're just going to leave. And when they want to come back and have the New York experience, they'll come back, except
Yeah.
they won't be on the tax roll.
Right.
And so it's a misnomer that, to me, New York should be a place, particularly if you think about New York and the history of New York, Wall Street. And
Yeah.
like, it's a capitalist place. It's a place where it spawns entrepreneurialism.
It's where you come to make
It's where you
money.
come to learn, make money, put your head down,
Yeah.
and get it all.
Yeah.
And I wonder, the concern I have is if New York isn't New York anymore, what is New York? There's only one New York in my
Right.
mind. So where is it? A lot of people think it's Miami, which is seeing a lot of influx. And I guess if you had, there's some, it's obviously a different city. I mean, we just completed a large tower in downtown Chicago on Michigan Ave, and the building is beautiful, and we're doing well because it's sort of an iconic property.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you go west into the city lines, 10, 15 blocks, it's dangerous. So
Right.
it's, I don't know where that line is, and plus it's cold.
Oh God, I know. It's those cities where you're like, why would anyone live here? But it does have great summers, a lot of
That's true.
water. But I think a lot of people, I've talked to people, especially in New York, with everything that's gone on, and there are certain people that can't leave. They might be doctors and their practices here, their licenses here, they're tied, and they're scared. And then there's people like me who's like, I'm like four suitcases away from a new life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I think that is a problem, because the people who have grounded their life here and they have all their roots here. And look, a lot of people don't want to leave their family. If this is where you're from, you don't want to leave. And
Well, true. Now I want to talk about, so obviously prices are determined based on supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's not enough supply, but I don't know how much you know about this, all the empty apartments that are sitting there that the state owns, which is a significant amount, but in order to bring them back up to code, it's going to cost a certain amount of money, which they will not put in. So now you have, I think it's over 80,000 empty apartments that are sitting there just because the city and the state is not going to pay to get these up to code. So naturally, you do have a housing crisis because there's all these empty apartments. Like what's going to go on with that?
Well, I mean, look, it's a problem if you think about it from the real estate point of view, like the owner real estate point of view. There are landlords that are not encouraged to actually spend money on their own properties, or like you say, to renovate apartments.
Right.
So you can't bring them online because you can't get a rent increase to even pay for the work that you put in to bring the apartment online.
Yeah.
So it's, what you have is a scenario where, real estate people don't want to invest in their own properties because they can't even get the money back. And so that's a big problem. And so I think between that and it's exacerbating. So
Yeah.
you have all these apartments that can't come online. They should be incentivized to come online.
Well, yeah.
It should be the opposite. But they have to make large capital investments to wait 10, 15 years to get a return on their investment. And it's not businesslike. So
do you think the state would ever step in to give them some sort of
they could if they wanted to buy them, unless they take them.
Yeah, we don't
but
want
then
anything run by the state. We all know how that happens. Your apartment will be the DMV.
Yeah, it was funny. When I was young in the real estate business, one of my mentors, someone I still work with closely, iconic, legendary real estate investor and developer. And I said to him, I might have been 25, I said to him, like, how do I make money in the real estate business? And he said, buy from municipalities or, banks or municipalities, meaning that they're not set up to run the real estate.
No.
So it's just this whole idea of like what's going on with like the federal government. It's so bloated. It's not efficient. So it's the same thing when you drill it down to like ownership. So, states, cities, municipalities, it's not their business to own the real estate. So they don't own it well and they don't operate it well and it deteriorates. And so the whole thing comes down. So that's really what you don't want to see here. Sort of like why we don't want state-owned grocery stores.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's coming.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of talk, and then the question is what actually gets put in play.
So I want to talk to the listeners that are out there. You said buy from a municipality or a bank. The bank would obviously be the foreclosures.
Yeah.
How does an individual investor like myself get access to these listings to know? Because I feel like most common folk like myself, we don't know what's in foreclosure. We don't know how to look for these things to get these investment opportunities that all these other companies are getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing because it's honestly the best way is to probably invest with a credible sponsorship or credible investment group that has that business plan of doing that in particular.
Okay.
And it won't be maybe a direct ownership, but it'll be that you're essentially investing with someone that actually has the resources, the capital to pull it together, and you then become an investor with them. It's very hard to do it as a standalone single individual.
Get foreclosures.
It's not like the stock market where you can go buy a stock or open up a Schwab account and and just go buy stocks. It's fundamentally different, and frankly, like you could be walking into what you think is a good deal, but all of a sudden you're caught with all these regulatory work catch-ups that you have to do.
Right.
And so, and the way they're sold or at auction, or we've never really had that strategy. We never really wanted to be vultures, so we never really looked at foreclosures. We've been involved in a number of them, but mostly they're when we have no choice or, we played some role in the property and we had to take it over to sort of protect the investment. And
right.
You sort of do that when you have to do that, but it's more fun to actually come up with something that you can be creative on and create value.
Totally.
Because, but sometimes the banks just take over and they offer them up and,
Okay, let's talk about a subject that I feel is scaring the shit out of most people out there, which is the companies like BlackRock and these other huge companies buying up all these private homes, making it almost impossible for regular people to accomplish the quote-unquote American dream.
Yeah, it's sad.
How do we stop this?
Well,
because they're trying to, you heard that whole, I'm a conspiracy theory, I do love it, where it's like, own nothing, you'll be a renter the rest of your life. It's going down that path if they keep doing this.
Yeah, they're consuming an unbelievable amount of build to rent.
This is horrible for us.
Yeah, I mean, although I would tell you, look, if you want to buy a home, you buy a home. It's great. It's not really, I always tell people I wouldn't look at it the same way as like I would a traditional investment. It's more, there's a sense of home ownership that is important.
Yeah.
I own my home. I want to invest
stable.
in it. I feel stable. So it's way more than an investment. I don't look at it like an investment. I look at it, actually, I don't even really look at it and classify it as an investment.
Yeah.
It's just part of like I think it's hard. I think I was listening to a podcast the other day that had Bill Pulte on, who's taken on a government role, and his great grandfather was who started Pulte Homes.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this particular thing. There's a big trend. I mean, those investment houses are always looking for new ways to find a new niche where they can profit. That's their objective. It's a problem. There's no real short-term answer to that. I mean, I was hearing him talk about some of the things that they're trying to put in place, which is they're trying to encourage a lot of the developers that are sitting on all these housing lots to actually build them.
Yeah.
And that producing a large quantity of like housing would like lower prices and make it a little bit more affordable for people.
Yeah.
But he mentioned something interesting, and this isn't to say anything political. It's just, you know, everyone thinks it's interest rates. You know, he was saying that a large part of it was, if you think about some of the migrant population that's come in the last, let's say, decade or even in the last 4 or 5 years, if you add 20 million to the population and they need housing services, the price goes up.
Right.
Particularly when you're not building enough new homes to keep up with the pace.
Right.
So that is a real thing that is just like how in New York City you have a certain amount of apartments for a certain amount of people, you know, and it's what causes that rent move higher. It's the same sort of thing in sort of home ownership throughout the U.S.
Well, I mean, it's especially in New York City where we're sitting, the price of rent has gone up drastically, more than most cities. And do you think it's because of the shortage? Because I don't feel that people are dying to come to New York anymore. I don't feel it's that there's not that much of a demand.
What's happening in New York is you have such a regulatory environment on certain number of rent stabilized apartments, and it takes, and you have set increases that you're allowed to, as a landlord, charge. So what it does is it takes all of those apartments and it says, well, they have to stay very low, and it reduces the population of the free market housing. So now there's only so much free market housing available,
right?
And you have all this demand. So it pulls the price up.
Yeah.
I've always been a believer, if you actually wanted to lower like the cost of housing, you'd put that you'd put that rent stabilized population or some large portion, let the market decide, and then you'd be able to sort of accurately judge. But what you have is this sort of like 40% of the board you can't touch.
Yeah.
So everyone's bidding on the 60%, and that sort of spikes the pricing. So, you know, and then you just have the cost of everything has gone up.
So going back to companies like Blackstone, they're not necessarily buying stuff here. I mean, I talked to a guy, a friend of mine, who has a big technology company outside of, based in Denver. And I asked him who owned his building for that thing we were talking about. And he was like, believe it or not, fuckers BlackRock. They own it. And I was like, oh my God, I've never talked to somebody who is in a building owned by BlackRock. And he hated it. And this guy's very successful.
You know, those, not to name anyone in particular, but those large investment companies, they have lots of capital. They have to make investments. They're looking at their investor group, and they're saying, we have a certain, you know, they're coming up with new strategies every day. It's not really one company. There are a few companies that I spoke recently at a conference, and I talked about how the mega players have now become ultra mega players, meaning they've become so big, they've raised so much money that they're just buying companies, buildings, portfolios. So yeah, I mean, whether it's those companies or other major investment companies, they're consuming up so much more.
Yeah, the buildings don't bother me as much as like them going. Like my brother lives in one of those neighborhoods in Colorado that was owned by a land developer, and then a builder came in. Forgot the name of the builder, but they basically had 5 models of homes.
Yeah,
you'd buy the land, you'd pick the model, and boom, it'd go up.
And you
within
own it
6 months. No, my brother.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying you own it, meaning like you come in, you buy it, but it's not a build to rent product. You're saying it's
no, you own it,
yeah.
Right? But so I feel like that's where BlackRock is what they're doing is they're going in, buying these parcels of land, and then basically having builders do the same kind of thing, where it's like, okay, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 models, you pick one, but then instead of people buying it,
they're renting it.
Right, and then their bill is going to, it scares the majority of people because you know what it's going to do to I feel like everyone deserves, if you have you work your ass off in this country, you should be able to own.
No, that's the American dream.
Of course,
I think it's
being taken away by companies like this.
Yeah, it's sad. I think also when you own a home, and I know a challenge. It's not easy, but I think it does other things for you in life, and it makes you. It's more traditional. There's a good value system there.
Yeah, it's like where you raise family,
where kids can blossom and do their work, and so I'm fully supportive of like that whole dream, because I think it sort of floats through the culture.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that America identifies with. It's like. So if we lose that, it's not. I think it has a lot of negative flow-throughs, but I think some of the things that, Bill Pulte again was speaking about, which he's like the chairman of, I guess, Fannie and Freddie, which does a lot of the lending for, on behalf of the government. But I think, they're trying to make it more accessible so that, as an example, if you had crypto, that you could use your crypto account as collateral to go buy a home. Or, so they're trying to loosen up certain regulations that have been in place for so long.
To allow more people
encourage people to put people in a better position to be able to find that dream, to be able to like go buy a home, identify it, and actually have the assets or the capital to like go and buy it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's like, the down payment was very high, and with people renting and maybe they're in a high place, they weren't, it took them so long to save, and then all of a sudden the market's back up again.
Well, look, my grandfather, let's say, just to go back and talk generically, if he bought a house 2 generations ago, and I'm just using ballpark numbers, it was $79,000.
Yeah.
If my, let's say, father, maybe that number was $179,000. If it's me, it's $1.5 million. Meaning it's the numbers crazy in this generation, and then if you look now at, let's say, my kids or the next generation, so the numbers went up by a multiple.
Yeah.
That were just, so there was a huge jump. So that never really made much sense. But like there's that problem. There's a lot going on in the real estate world, because housing is one subset of like what we do, but it's, what are you going to do with all the empty office buildings that are now sitting obsolete throughout the U.S.? So,
well, aren't they turning a lot of them into condos now?
In New York, it's easier to do that, even though it's regulatory, meaning because the value is there, meaning like someone will come and rent it. But if you're in the middle of, some suburban or rural area, taking an obsolete office building that's 30 or 40 years old, it's not that easy to renovate into housing. And frankly, converting properties is a whole nother challenge, because it wasn't what it was designed as.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
Because I remember like we were talking about, it was a big part of like the last election was, how do we put more housing?
Yeah.
How do we build more? How do we make it more affordable?
Yeah.
And like that was a big thing that I feel like people are still trying to figure out.
Yeah. Now it's all about data centers.
Yeah. Well, which is causing all the energy bills to go up too.
It's another big problem. There's just not enough power out there. So
yeah.
It's put a lot of people. There's a lot of I mean, look. There's also. I mean, look. To shine a light on things, there's a lot of opportunity out there. You just got to be able to pivot and go where there's opportunity, and some of it is like a reset on the pricing. Some of it is some of the things that the government's doing. Some of it relates to just where technology has been.
Yeah.
But
so what do you think? I lost my train of thought. Apparently, I'm having an old brain fart. I'm not that old. Yeah. So what do we see as? What do you think about? DeSantis has been floating this idea around where he says, if you own your home, you own your home. Abolish the property tax.
Great.
You think? But do you think that's great? So you personally live in New Jersey, where taxes are stupid.
Very high.
I think it's stupid you live there because they're so high.
Very high.
I don't feel like people are like, I'm going to go live in New Jersey. I'd be like, go to Connecticut. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But how do you think if states started abolishing property taxes where people actually own their home? Because you never fully own your home because they can take it with the taxes.
Well, they can raise the taxes too. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, this is the other bullshit thing that happens. They can go through and say, oh, your house has increased $300,000. Great. Most people are like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I bought it for this. Now it's this. But you didn't, unless you sell it, you're not getting that $300,000. But now your tax base has changed.
Yeah.
So it's like a way of like fucking you twice.
I mean,
but where do the states get their money?
Other revenue generators, because people are coming in. So
right, exactly. It's like you got a tax on this, a tax on this. I mean, yeah, it's like you.
I mean, you might be shifting it. I mean, I'm not so sure that's going to go through.
Wouldn't it be nice?
But if it could go through anywhere, it probably would go through in Florida.
Yeah.
And I
that'll
think,
cause a boom.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Well, that's another, then, in theory, house prices go up again. So it's like, it's a very hard balance to find. But I actually am, I think some of the things that DeSantis has done have been great over the years. So,
yeah.
And, he's made it a place to people, it's business friendly, it's
safe,
income friendly, and it's safe. Florida's got another issue now, and this is another big issue in the U.S., coastal and flooding and insurance and all that stuff. So there's just, it's like the money's that's got to get resolved. But, that's just another potential cost out there. So,
yeah.
But I mean, that's where there's areas like Nashville that are appealing. They're not priced the same way. They're not,
Well, the one benefit of being in New York, which is so funny, is somebody said to me, because I was telling them the neighborhood I was potentially looking at, and they said, oh, yeah, that's the expensive area. I said, the benefit of living in New York City is the whole world feels like it's on sale.
Yeah.
You hear $2,000 something for a one bedroom. That's high for Nashville. Coming from New York, you're like, that's a steal.
Yeah.
And I got no state tax on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a New Yorker in that way. I mean, obviously, I grew up in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey, but I grew up on the border, and I have spent most of my career in New York City. And I travel around and talk to people. There's also a New York energy. I just don't want to see us lose that.
So if you were all of a sudden woke up tomorrow and you were put in charge of fixing the housing crisis across the United States, what would you do?
Tough question.
I know that is. I just came up with it. I'm like, that's a real tough question.
I think that
We're
question.
sending this to Papa Trump.
Yeah. I think is finding the balance of making it business friendly in various places and utilizing whatever like that local area resource is. So I think there's certain reasons that people want to be up in Montana and Pacific Northwest and those areas. I think California, by way of example, has arguably the best real estate in the country, but has somehow created an environment that's impossible for people to, except for the ultra elite people. It's very, very, you could say the same thing like New York City and California as in a state. And so I think you have to sort of like level things out a bit throughout the country. I think let New York be New York. I think like probably I would tell you and this is just off the cuff.
Yeah.
If all the states were less dependent on the federal government and they actually operated on their own budgets and they didn't rely on huge subsidies from the federal government to survive, I think they'd find their way to leveling out. So
interesting.
I guess if I had to say one thing, it would be that, because they wouldn't have a choice to overspend their budgets and create a situation like what we have in California. You'd have to have efficiency. You'd have to have if they say there's going to be water in the fire hydrants, there better be water in the fire hydrants.
Right.
Like out west, with the LA fires. Or if they say they're going to get a train going, it has to have merit on its own. And there obviously would be things the federal government would come in and do. But if I was looking for one solution, it would be to somehow force the states to actually sort of have accountability. I think if they had accountability, you'd have more states like Florida.
Right, and they want to encourage people.
They'd want to encourage people in, and they'd want to get their projects done under the right time frames, at the right cost.
Yeah.
And it would be more merit-based. It would work naturally because they would have no choice.
Right.
And then the federal government is there to backstop them for emergencies, like if you have major storms or hurricanes of that nature. And if the federal government played that role to the states, and again, just talking off the cuff, that would at least be like a way for everyone to say, okay, you know what? I have to take care of my own playground and make this
Yeah.
Make
No,
it work.
I think that is a good idea, because if they want to bring in more revenue, they've got to bring in more people, and they've got to do it by creating an environment with businesses, with housing that the people that have the jobs there can afford to live in, with safety. But yeah, I think he might have just
And
hit
then
the
they
nail
would
on the head.
actually-
They're too dependent on a bailout from the government.
And what would happen is they'd be competing with each other, and they'd work
I
with
think
each other
it's
when
brilliant.
they needed to, but you wouldn't be. They'd be competing with each other, and then you'd have a free market.
Yeah.
And the free market usually seems to find its way.
Right.
And so when you don't allow the free market then you get these huge distortions.
Yeah.
Maybe Ohio has to be cheaper than California, New York for work, for reasons that are
One is really pretty and one is not.
Let them find something else. Yeah. Or let them find what brings, let them be more encouraging to bring people in. It's all those things.
Yeah. It's almost like kind of like a,
It would be a leveling. It would be a leveling to be a place where people want to live.
Yeah.
Help people,
Let's go to Washington this week and we'll pitch it.
Yeah.
It'll be great. I'll run that project. But I think that's a great thing. So, okay. So where can people find you, listen to more, invest with you guys, all that good stuff?
So you can find, I have a fairly decent social media presence my team is helpful with. I'm the head equity guy or strategist at Time Equities, and I also have a family office called the Becker Organization, but I'm Googleable and LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
Well, it's fun because you're usually at real estate conferences, and now I got
I'm heading to Miami on Wednesday.
Yeah, now I got your butt in the next Madison studio.
I love it.
So I'm glad that we were able to talk about this, because I think the BlackRock thing particularly is very nerve-wracking. I think the unknown of where New York City is very nerve-wracking. And so I think this was a good episode to kind of educate people, maybe put their minds at ease, or maybe give them a nice exit strategy.
There you go.
We don't know. But the good news about life is that it is unpredictable, but that's actually where the magic really happens.
There's always tomorrow. The unknown. You get up tomorrow, you go, you find the opportunity.
And you expect good things to happen, and good things will happen.
Yeah.
So
there's good places out there. There's tons of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Just got to find it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You're amazing. And thank you to everyone who's listening. We will see you next time to find out who's next. Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.